David Fuller has today been sentenced for 2 murders of 2 women in the 1980s and abusing 102 dead bodies in morgues in 2 Kent hospitals over the past 12 years.
Before we get started, feel free to like and subscribe. On June 22nd, 1987, Wendy Neal was spending time with her boyfriend Ian. After some time had passed, it would be time for Wendy to go home. The next morning would come, and Wendy hadn't showed up to work, which was out of character. And after trying to call Wendy, word would reach Ian, and he would make his way over to Wendy's. When Ian arrived, he would make his way into Wendy's home and would make a truly heartbreaking discovery. Someone had broken into Wendy's home and killed her. Ian would find Wendy naked and bloody. She had been strangled and beaten to death, and on top of that, she had been SA'd. DNA would be found. With it being 1987, it would have to be stored for a later time. The running theory is that someone had been watching Wendy, and as she went out with Ian that night, he would make entry into Wendy's home through a window. Then he would lay in wait. Police would find a shoe print on Wendy's shirt that matched Clark's sports track sneakers. The person that had killed Wendy also took her diary, purse, and keys. These would act as instruments for the killer to be able to look back on these heinous crimes with glee. 5 months would pass, and he would strike again. In Turnbridge, Wales, another truly sickening crime would take place. It's about midnight on the 24th of November, 1987. A 20-year-old woman named Caroline Price would take a taxi home. She was spending the night out with friends. As Caroline would approach her home, she would be grabbed, and the neighbors would say that they heard a scream around that time. They would look outside, but would see nothing. The next morning would come, and Caroline would not show up to work. With the news reaching her family, they would begin to panic, with the recent case of Wendy fresh in their mind. The fear of a serial killer being on the loose had the small town terrified. The taxi driver would be interviewed and would be ruled out. 3 weeks would pass, and Caroline's body would be found by a farmer, badly decomposed in a ditch. The killer would come to be known as the bedsit murderers. The case would go unsolved for decades. However, the 90s would come, and along with it the technology for DNA, and a full profile would be made of the perpetrator. The DNA would be filtered out to 90 different individuals. After voluntary samples would be taken, one would be found to be nearly 100% match. After 33 years, the man responsible would be arrested. On December 3rd, 2020.
Morning. David's place. Hello. David needs to come and speak to you. Oh, yes. Are you here alone? No. David, if you listen to what I'm going to say. Yes. We're from Kent Police and we're investigating the murders of Wendy Neal and Caroline Pierce in 1987. Okay? As part of that investigation, you've been linked as a suspect, both geographically and forensically. Okay, if you listen to what my colleague's going to say to you.
All right, David, you're under arrest on suspicion of the murders of Wendy Neal and Caroline Pierce in 1987. Do you understand? You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which will later lie in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. You are being arrested to secure and preserve evidence by means of questioning, so we can conduct searches, so forensic samples can be obtained, and to prevent your disappearance. Do you understand?
The person that had been responsible for these 2 heinous crimes would be David Fuller. David at the time of his arrest was 66 years old and a father of 2. David worked as an electrician in the hospital. While police did a search of David's home, they would find pictures of David from the 1980s, where he is wearing the same type of shoes that left prints at the scene. But that's just the beginning of the truly sickening acts that David had been committing. David would be questioned, and he would admit to the murders of the 2 victims, and the police would find out the pin to David's bank accounts was the same year that the murders took place, 1987. After David's arrest, the police would find 4 hard drives that had 5 terabytes of photos and videos stuck to the back of a nightstand.
There's some stuff stuck on the back of that one as well. I've got the body worn on it, literally as it's happened. Well, on the back of his chest of drawers, it looks like he's got some hard drives in there, I would say. But they're stuck to the back of the chest of drawers. Yeah, it's a SanDisk one that I can read there.
These hard drives were well hidden because they had 4 million photos of CP, mostly downloaded from the internet. Yes, you heard me correctly, 4 million. They would also find 818,000 images and 504 videos of David having intercourse with 100 corpses. Some of the filed names were Necrophilia and the best yet. David will also keep a diary where he would write down some of the acts he performed on the corpses. David had been working for the NHS and would use his card to gain access to the hospital's mortuary. David would wait for the staff to go home, where he would slither his way into the room and film himself having intercourse with the corpse. The victims would range in the age of 9 to 100. After David finished, he would use the mortuary's documents to get the information of the victims, to write down in his diary. He would also look them up on Facebook. David was arrested and charged with murder and violation of a corpse.
Was it always in the evenings, David? Was it always evening time?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell me what you've been doing? Can you try and explain it to me?
Fine.
You find it hard?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you help?
No. No.
Okay.
Unless,
How? We know that.
I want to admit it. I am admitting the offences, but I don't really want to go into detail.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate that.
And what offences are you admitting, David?
As you've just described to me.
Okay. In terms of the actual penetration of corpses? Okay. And do you know how many occasions, David?
No.
No. No, David, I was asking where you put the hard drives, where you would have kept them. Can you help me with where you kept them? You said it was in the office. Now you've got a desk, haven't you, in the office? Yeah? And you've got a wardrobe. You keep quite a lot of your clothes in the office, don't you? Yeah? Quite a small room, yes? Now we found some hard drives that was like packaged to the back of a small chest of drawers. Does it help you, David?
Yes.
Yeah? Is that where you keep the hard drive?
Yes.
Okay. The second part to this, David, is the recording, isn't it? of what's been happening. Okay? And we'll have to go through that in a little bit more detail, but just for now, David, alright? Just for now, alright? When that's been happening, okay? Alright? Have you been recording yourself doing those things? Recording yourself penetrating the corpses?
I admit that, yes.
Yeah? Okay. What did you retain the recordings for?
I don't know either.
Okay. Was it for further pleasure, David? You know, in the same way as somebody would keep.
That's Kent and Sussex Hospital.
Yeah.
Not the Time Shafts Hospital, the Kent and Sussex Hospital a couple of times, yeah.
Okay.
It started then.
So it started then.
Mm.
Okay. And you say a couple of times. How many would you say?
Not many.
Sorry, not many.
Not many, no.
Not many. Okay. And in terms of at the Kent and Sussex Hospital, were there any occasions other than at those hospitals?
No.
Okay, so it's always just been hospital setting.
Yeah.
It's not been at any funeral parlours or
No.
anybody that you knew that had died or anything like that. Okay. Do you know why you started?
No.
Do you remember the first time? Remember the first time?
No. Sorry. No.
Okay. Did you record who they were? Any details on the hard drive? Did you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Did you record their names?
Yes.
Okay. Did you record their ages?
Yes.
Okay. David, this is probably the hardest question, alright? Or the hardest one for you to answer. But we need to try and feel comfortable answering it. Why did you record what was going on?
I don't know why.
And I can help you, because you know we've searched your office, haven't we? And we've seized your office. And we've downloaded computers. I don't know, David, whether certain things in your life have given you the opportunity to do it. Can you see where I'm coming from? That could be a particular shift, or it could be a particular day when the mortuary closes early. It could be something else in your personal life that allows you to do that, or there may not be a sequence. It might just be when one of the females enters the mortuary. What was your thought process about your offending, David? How would you decide that a particular offence would occur? I mean, you know, is it?
I didn't have a...
David's wife would leave him upon hearing these truly disgusting revelations. David's wife and friends were shocked that David would do such a thing. They all said he was a normal person, just a little quiet. David would plead not guilty due to diminished responsibilities. However, on the fourth day of his trial, he would change to a guilty plea and was charged with the murders of Wendy and Caroline and 51 other offenses, including 44 charges relating to the 78 victims in the mortuary between the years of 2008 and 2020. David was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The systematic nature of the way you had recorded your offending can be illustrated by reference to one portable hard drive, Exhibit KH83, that contained 3 folders, Necrolord, Register and Deadly. Some of the content could not be accessed. Within a subfolder titled Deadliest. This also contained subfolders. One of the subfolders, titled 00 Best Yet, contained a further 36 folders. Of these, 27 were titled using a number, then a woman's name, and then a further number. Within these folders, you stored images of you interfering with the corpses of women and girls. It is by looking at such images, comparing the creation dates and other records with the mortuary logbooks and other evidence, that the identities of the 91 named victims were found. It would be wrong to name any victim, and it is unnecessary to do so. Among those you abused were women who had led fulfilling and rich lives. They were the best. One had flown across the Atlantic in a propeller plane via Iceland. Another was a talented skier. One had worked at Bletchley Park during World War II. Many had long and happy marriages. A number worked hard in professions such as or in the NHS, caring for others and looking after the interests of their students, clients and patients. All had families that they nurtured and loved. Some spent the last part of their lives in suffering, whether through disease or old age, but they didn't lose their dignity until you decided to take it from them.
At the time David was sentenced, 81 victims were ID'd. The police feared there may be more from when David started his work with the NHS. They would set up a call center for the public. The NHS would have the security cameras reviewed, and on December 2022, David would plead guilty to 23 more victims, bringing the total up to 101 victims. This would add 4 more years on top of his life sentence. At this point, no more victims have been ID'd. David Shipley of the Kent's Police Department was tasked with reviewing the videos of David's hard drives and would later say that David would perform every intimate act one could perform on a human body. There was a complete lack of emotions being shown by him. It would seem to me there was no thought whatsoever for the fact that these were someone's loved ones. It's still a person. They may be dead, but it's still a person. There wasn't an ounce of humanity demonstrated by him at any point. It took David Shipley over 1 year to watch all the videos on David's hard drive. David Fuller was a man with no control. The only reason he didn't continue killing was the fact that he got a job where he had access to female bodies. It didn't matter to him the age of the females. He just had an itch that he couldn't control. If David didn't get the job working in the NHS, he would have kept killing, so he would have been caught sooner, but more women would have died. That's the double-edged sword of the situation. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Until next time.